and welcome back to another episode of FPL Squad Picks. It's game week 4, and thanks for joining me, where we'll be taking a look at some weekly tips, some transfers, and possible strategies going throughout the season. So let's jump in. If you like this video, please give it a like and hit subscribe. Hit the notification bell not to miss more content coming soon. So first up is to check out how I did in the last game week 3. So I totaled out at 65 points and saw a green arrow with a rank rise of over 35,000 places. I was pretty pleased with my overall performance and point score for this game week. It was a little bit quiet through the midfield, but got some key points across other players that helped boost my score. Having Antonio as captain certainly helped, scoring 22 points. For anyone that's also owning Tony, we finally got a return back from him. Greenwood has been Mr. Consistent and scored yet again, and Salah returned a double digits haul. It was a bit of a reverse roles this week with Trent and Shaw, so Trent, although conceded, got 2 bonus points, which gave him a total of 4, but Shaw keeping that all-important clean sheet, or should I say De Gea keeping that all-important clean sheet for United, meant a 6 points for him. So for those of you that have been following my team, you would have noticed that Jota is now missing. That was my last week's transfer, which meant Jota came out and Benrahma came in. Even though Jota has been really consistent in the last few fixtures, I had 2 free transfers going into that game week and I really didn't want to have to burn one. And with West Ham up against Crystal Palace, I thought there was a high potential for Benrahma to outscore Jota this week when they had a difficult fixture against Chelsea. Unfortunately, it didn't quite pay off, but I think it was the most safe and sensible move, meaning that I also freed up some money, now with 1.7 million left in the bank. So in this section we take a look at the game week 4 fixtures and focus in on where we could potentially pick up some points, either in attack, defence, and which games have the potential for a lot of goals where we could look to get some attacking returns across both teams. So I created a little colour-coded key in the top right hand corner. You've got attack, defence and goals. So if you see those colours on the fixtures below, that'll give you an indication to where I'm thinking the points can be picked up. So to highlight some of these fixtures, I think if we start off with the Spurs against Crystal Palace, I think this is a really good chance to look at the Spurs players in Kane and Son. They are more premium picks, and I know that a lot of people don't have the space for them at the moment, especially if we've already banked up on Salah, Bruno, Lukaku and potentially Ronaldo. So this might be one of the rare occasions that Kane is actually seen as a bit of a differential, just seen with a slightly lesser percentage, only because a lot of managers just can't get them into their team without either ripping up their team or having to make a lot of moves just to make the funds available for one of those players. If you really wanted to get a Spurs asset in and you were looking at other more cheaper options, you could look at someone like Dele Alli or Lucas Moura, but there's always a risk of minutes across those 2 players. But I still think Kane is probably the standout option, especially after coming back from international duty. He had a good few minutes under his belt now, so he should be fighting fit and ready to go. Another fixture to look at here, which might be a bit more of a mixed bag, is Leicester v Man City. In the last few fixtures between these teams, it's been quite a tight affair, even seeing Leicester beat Man City, even though that was a pre-season cup game. So I think this fixture is a real 50-50. It could see a lot of goals, it could see no goals at all. I think both teams have a very strong defence, but equally, they both have a really good attack. The only thing to mention in this game that might make a slight bit of difference to the defensive strength of Man City is something that I'll pick up a bit later on in the video. Next up, I think a really good fixture to look at would be the Man United v Newcastle game. Now this fixture will see the return of Cristiano Ronaldo. We don't know if he's going to be starting yet or on the bench, as this is a 3 o'clock in the afternoon game on a Saturday, UK time. This game won't be televised, unfortunately, so if it does see the return of Cristiano Ronaldo in the starting lineup, we won't get to see it firsthand, but we'll certainly be picking up on the highlights of that game. I think if you haven't already, the Manchester United attack looks really good for this fixture. I know a lot of managers are looking at bringing in Ronaldo for this game week, but just to err on the side of caution, that if he doesn't get a starting game, he might come off the bench, but that's still not to say that he can't get an attacking return. But if it does mean taking out some more premium options that are more set for the 90 minutes, just something to bear in mind on the build-up to the deadline. After a great last game from De Gea, you could be looking at a few Manchester United defensive assets too. Luke Shaw hasn't had the best run so far, but saw clean sheet points in the last fixture, bonus points in the game before that, and has performed relatively well with the England team on international duty. Another good team to focus in on the attack would be the West Ham game. They see a trip to Southampton, Now their defence isn't the tightest, but certainly they have some attacking threat and could get a few goals in this fixture. And another two good fixtures to look at for attacking assets would be the Chelsea versus Aston Villa game and the Leeds versus Liverpool fixture. Focusing in on Chelsea and Liverpool players, you'd like to think that both the attacking assets of these teams should see some good returns. Again, as I mentioned with the Man City fixture, Aston Villa are in a similar position where their defence might be weakened for some updated news coming later in the video, and similarly with Liverpool. But purely based on attack, you could go for either of the Chelsea or Liverpool attackers and be sure that they probably get a return within this fixture, especially with Villa already being a little bit leaky at the back and Leeds pushing forward so high that they tend to leave themselves a little bit more open at the back. If you like this video, please give it a like and hit subscribe. Hit the notification bell not to miss more content coming soon. If you'd like to keep up to date with the latest video posts, locked in team selections and chat during the game week, then you can follow me on Twitter at FPL Squad Picks. So here's my team as it currently stands. I'm pretty happy with the setup overall. I know that I've got two players there highlighted in red, but to be honest, both of those players were already bench fodder, so they weren't going to be coming on regardless. I know that I do have some money in the bank and two free transfers that could see either of those players easily upgraded to have a rotation option, but as you'll see in a minute, I have other plans for both that money and the transfers. So before we had the international break and the news broke that Ronaldo was coming back to Manchester United, I had a very clear view in what I wanted to do in terms of my next transfers for my team. I'm a big fan of trying to bank transfers as early as you can, especially from game week 1. If you can set up your team for game week 1 and 2 and get that extra one rolled over, I think it does give you a lot more option going forward, and you can obviously avoid using your wild card if needed. So for this week, having two free transfers and extra money in the bank is allowing me to make this move and leaving £0 in the bank. So though he's had a great start to the season and I know he will continue to get points, these transfers would see Fernandes leave my team in place of Jota. And again, I know that I brought him out last week, but I really didn't want to have to burn a free transfer, so bringing him in doesn't bother me too much, even if I just transferred him out. It was purely based on having that Chelsea fixture. They have a game against Leeds, which could see Jota get some more returns. Now, taking out a premium like Fernandes does free up a lot more money, and the reason to make that move would be to upgrade Tony to Ronaldo. It's a bit bittersweet seeing that Tony has just got a return after waiting a few game weeks, and I'm sure he will be another one that continues to get good returns. Not a bad fixture against Brighton, but I just think that Ronaldo has a higher potential to outscore him, especially if he starts this game week and across the next few fixtures. And for me, I'm not really a massive fan of getting in the premium hitters in the front line. I think there is a lot of good value for some of the forwards in the mid-range, such as Antonio, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, even Raul Jimenez if he starts to return in some decent fixtures coming up. And as mentioned earlier, you could look at another premium striker such as Kane, who has a decent fixture, and even Lukaku. But comparing those three premium forwards and how likely they are to get some returns in the next few fixtures, I just really like the Man United run of games up until about game week 7. And Ronaldo has shown time and time again, not only at club level, but recently at international level as well, that he's capable of playing the 90 minutes, he's still hungry for the win. Also, there is talk that he may get penalties and that gets taken off Bruno Fernandes, which is the case for the Portuguese setup, but that's not a definite yet, as Fernandes has been so consistent. Oli may wish to want to stick with Bruno. So this would be a pretty clean and easy switch. It would see a 3-5-2 formation, and I think it's quite a well-balanced team going forward, leaving me with an option in both the midfield and the forwards to switch out for another premium option, or downgrade to free up money elsewhere. Now there's certainly a few other transfers that people are looking at this game week. As previously mentioned, Dominic Calvert-Lewin has a really good fixture this week and has a few good game weeks coming up. And just to note, another midfielder that may have a really good potential for some attacking returns is Ferran Torres. He also just played for Spain in the international break and scored, and at the moment Pep is playing him quite high up the field as their number 9. So as long as his minutes aren't disrupted too much by the midfield options that they have or Jesus, he's a good cheap midfield option that almost gives you another striker within the team, and is a little bit cheaper than someone like Jota, so might free up a little bit more money if you're struggling to get someone like a Ronaldo, Kane or Lukaku into your team. But if I did stick to my original transfer plans and just bring in Jota and Ronaldo, I think this is how my team would set up, seeing that 3-5-2 formation, And even though Salah could be a great captain choice this game week against Leeds and could get not only one but multiple returns, I just think that if we get some confirmation that Ronaldo will start the fixture, a return back to Old Trafford for Ronaldo against a weak Newcastle defence could see him bring a big points haul in. So I think I just can't look past that captain armband being put on Ronaldo. Now regarding my future plans, I am kind of hoping that this team will carry me through for the next game week as well. That's not to say that there won't be some good options to go for next game week, but if I can get away with saving another transfer, leaving me another 2 free transfers to roll over each week, that'll put me in a really strong position to save my wild card as long as possible and easily solve any issues across my team in the next few game weeks. So here we have some extra news regarding the international duties that have just taken place and how that's affecting the club football at the Premier League. So prior to the players leaving for their international duties, a lot of the Premier League teams united together saying that they won't be sending their players regarding the issues around COVID, and especially that some of the countries were down as red listed countries. So it would have meant that the quarantine time coming back would see them miss a few fixtures for their club. This obviously didn't go down too well with a lot of the international teams, which meant a lot of discussions with FIFA around this situation. The result of this for one country is that there are reports coming out now that Brazil has enforced a rule that they are entitled to enforce to FIFA regarding some of the Brazilian players, meaning that they are allowed to ban those players from playing, and I believe it's across the next 5 days, which would see them miss the Game Week 4 fixtures. Now initially it doesn't seem too bad when it is just one team imposing this ban, but when you think about who plays for Brazil and the players that may be affected by this, from an FPL standpoint this could cause a lot of headaches for managers. So this could see the likes of Alisson, Fabinho and Firmino for Liverpool, Edison and Jesus for Man City, Rafinha for Leeds, Allen for Everton, just to mention a few. And to put a slight positive spin on this, if you're looking at someone like Jota and worried about his minutes, well if Firmino is involved with this ban, this could see Jota's place a lot more secured. So as I mentioned, this isn't set in stone yet and there are stories still developing, so it's definitely worth keeping an ear out for any more updated news. And it might be worth casting your eyes over a list of those Brazilian players that may be involved, because I've only named a few. Even players like Fred for Manchester United could be involved with this ban. Now I know some of these players haven't got a high ownership, but thinking a little bit wider than the ban itself, you could look at potentially, if those players aren't going to be starting, who else could come in their place, and who might be a good game week punt. Feel free to leave a comment below about your transfer plans or any other questions you would like answered for your team this game week. If you like this video, please give it a like and hit subscribe. Hit the notification bell not to miss more content coming soon. Thanks for watching.